The DNC employs a number of mathematicians, statisticians, and epidemiologists, and they have run thousands, if not tens of thousands, of samples of how the allocation and the votes would work out. Like when political groups like the RNC or the DNC make decisions, they're not making them in a vacuum. They're not making knee-jerk decisions. They're making decisions based upon thousands of hours of statistical research. Just like they knew moving California up early would further dilute the number of delegates than anybody could get in a block. Just like they knew running 17 candidates would dilute the early vote and the early delegate split. They purposely asked, or my hypothesis, which is a very educated hypothesis based on logic, is that the DNC urged Pete to drop out last night because neither Biden nor Bloomberg were going to be able to clear the 15% threshold in California and win any delegates. As of the other day, it was Bernie was running at 32 and everybody else was running at 12. And in California, you have to capture 15% of the popular vote to be awarded any delegates. And the DNC basically told Pete to drop out so that his 10% would float away to Biden and Bloomberg. They would both get over the threshold. And instead of it being Bernie walks out of California with 230 delegates, and that's all the delegates out of California, now maybe Bernie walks out with 200, Bloomberg walks out with 100, and Biden walks out with 100. Again, I don't think the DNC is backing Biden, just like I don't think the DNC is backing Bloomberg, nor are they backing Warren. At this point, they're backing a concerted effort to ensure that Sanders can't clutch the 1,992 delegates required to win on a first nomination count, so that they can then go to a brokered convention where the superdelegates come in the second count. Now, Rebecca and I were discussing this earlier this morning, and I've had a bunch of people asking me, well, if Pete dropped out and Steyer dropped out and Klobuchar is definitely going to drop out after Super Tuesday and she gets her home state Minnesota delegates, isn't Elizabeth Warren going to drop out after Massachusetts also? To which my answer is no. My answer is that Elizabeth Warren is going to stay in the race all the way until the end, even though she's currently being buoyed by super PACs, which has been announced. This isn't news. Because Liz Warren has to seem like a viable choice to the DNC, because if they do get to a brokered convention, and basically what you have is Bloomberg, Biden, and Warren, the Warren selection is the one least likely to make the left lose their shit, burn everything to the ground, and not vote in 2020. So the DNC very much wants to keep Warren viable as Bloomberg or Biden, but they don't necessarily want Bloomberg, Biden, or Warren to actually win. They just want Bernie to not clinch. That's really all the DNC is focused on right now. And they get to take the next 3 months deciding what they want to do with their brokered convention, which is the DNC is a very pragmatic political organization. It's what they do. I wish I had a better summary for you, but that's basically what's going on. I mean, if anybody has an alternative theory, or if you've heard some other stuff, I'd love to hear it. But I mean, Steyer dropping out was a nothing burger anyway. Even though the opposition commercials that he ran against Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All are still playing in California today. So the only problem is that Sanders is off-brand, right? No, the only problem is that Bernie Sanders wants to raise taxes on the wealthy, and Nancy Pelosi's net worth is currently $108 million. That's the problem. See, Tom Perez is a millionaire. Nancy Pelosi is a millionaire. Joe Biden is a millionaire. The vast majority of registered Democrats are not millionaires. However, the DNC, the leadership committee of the DNC, is mostly millionaires. Ergo, they're going to want to do what's best for them because they're human beings, and most human beings are self-serving.
Hey, can we look at 538 right now?
Yeah.
Because I'd like to drop down. I'd like to drop some, statistics.
Yeah, of course.
Projections.
So here you go. So as of right now, no one is back in the lead at 2 and 3. 65% chance that nobody wins. See how the black line is nobody wins is shot up, and Sanders has shot way down. So the first shoot down, if you look here, I'll blow this up a little bit for you so you can see it. I'll show you exactly what happened. And again, you can thank my wife, the epidemiologist, for teaching me more granular scientific method in breaking down numbers. You know, okay, let's do this. Okay. So if you see this light blue line here is Bernie Sanders. And he was going up, down, up, down. Then here there were two dramatic shifts down. Poof, and then they'll skip over, and then poof. He basically dropped down twice. So the first drop down was Biden winning South Carolina by 30 points. The second drop down, where he dropped even further, and the blue line, no one winning, went up even further, was from Buttigieg's announcement that he was dropping out. Because the moment Buttigieg drops out, it creates more delegates for Bloomberg and Biden, making either one of them a more viable replacement at a brokered convention, which is why Sanders is now only a 1 in 5, 20% chance statistically of outright winning the nomination, whereas nobody is 65%.
Here, I want to also say, like, a lot's going to change tomorrow. This is
he's still going to win. Yeah, Bernie's going to win 11 or 12 states tomorrow out of 14. Like, I'm not...
No.
That's going to happen.
I'm saying this matters. Yesterday, Bernie was at 38%. Today, after South Carolina, he has gone down. But I really think people need to look at where we are. And if your candidate is someone, can you go back to the one before? Oh, yeah. This is the pledged.
I was just showing This is the chance of plurality. This is the actual winning.
So if you want to beat Trump and not have a contested convention, I think the choice is clear. I don't have to say it. If you want a contested convention, which could quite literally destroy the party, the people, and your candidate, I really am asking people to put other people before yourself.
Hold on 1 sec. So Hackstock, here's the problem with it. I get what you're saying. Hackstock says he thinks Liz Warren is staying in to get more delegates and use them as a bargaining chip. So Liz Warren's staying through Massachusetts ostensibly because she can win a huge number of delegates that she can then barter at the DNC. But honestly, at her polling rate, she's not staying in because she's going to win more delegates. Because in most states, she's statistically not going to pick up delegates. She's staying in to seem as a viable national candidate so that the DNC has a backstop in case, quote, Bernie bros opt to burn down the House if they go to nominate Bloomberg. That's why. Liz Warren's going to be the DNC's compromise candidate. And that's why, that she's going to stay in until the end, even though... right now she doesn't have a lot of money, which, a lot of campaigns don't. Like, we looked at the money stuff on Thursday or Friday, Rebecca. We looked at the money, and it was like Buttigieg had like 2.2 million on hand and had already spent 2.1 million, which is why we knew he was going to drop soon. But the only reason he dropped before California was so that people will vote for Biden and Bloomberg and pump their numbers up.
So again, do you want a contested convention or not?
You're getting one.
Well,
no, you're getting
that's the way it looks. I don't think 20% is nothing. It is a chance, and it's the best chance that we have.
I don't know what to tell you. Like, assuming that Bernie Sanders polls, let's just even say let's say he pulls 35% of all the possible delegates on Super Tuesday. He pulls 35%, okay? Which is high. Like, California's only polling 32, Texas he's polling 31. A lot of other states he's polling in the 20s with everybody else. Let's just hypothetically say Bernie Sanders wins 35% of all the available delegates on Super Tuesday, with 51% of the delegates off the board at a 35% clip. That means he will need to win 67% of every last delegate on the board in every single remaining state between March 4th and July. He will have to win every state at a 70% clip, which doesn't happen, which is why they put California early, so that if he surged late, he couldn't win a large bank of delegates on the back end. It's exactly why they moved California up to Super Tuesday. And it's why nobody can catch fire after Super Tuesday and win the majority of delegates. This was all mathematically constructed to be the most likely scenario. And as percentages
if
do...
we talk about it more, I might go shoot myself. So, can we talk about it now?
I getcha. That's just where we're at, though. Why do you all assume the DNC would
I'm
want
glad that
people to
made you
vote?
guys laugh.
So, SSJ Trolley, of course the DNC wants people to vote because the more people who vote, the more the DNC and other people can crow about how American democracy is the envy of the free world. It's marketing, dude. It's what we do in America. We're better at marketing than anybody else. We are marketing gurus. We literally market stuff so well that people consistently vote against their best interests in like droves. Like we are the marketing
Hey,
capital of the world. Hey, Rebecca.
yeah. No, what about what Texas Gringo says? Because I also wondered this too. I thought Trump trying to get Republicans to go vote for Bernie in South Carolina was going to have more of an effect. I know at least one Trump supporter who is voting for Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, I don't think it's enough to move the needle, though. South Carolina, like I said, you go look at the southern states from the 2016 primary. Go look at South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi. Go look at Hillary won all those states over Bernie by a minimum of like 40 points. He won Georgia by like 60. Like she won Georgia by 60. Like those are heavy ass Republican districts. And just because you ask Republicans to go out and vote for a Democrat in the primary, they're not going to because they don't want to sully themselves by voting for a Democrat and having it being on their fucking voting record. So no, they just don't bother coming out. And all the Democrats come out and vote for the most centrist fucking Democrat. That's just it. That's the southern states they work the same way for the last like 40 years. It has nothing to do with being uneducated or being slow it's just culturally it's just where they're at in the southeast. Like just like how in the northeast people just fucking pull the blue lever like, on autopilot. Like these are, regional things.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, go look at Hillary's numbers from 2016. Like, there was one state she won in the South. She got something like 78%. I was like, holy shit. Like, and Bernie would have to do that for the majority of the back end to clinch. So that was my entire point. SSJ Trolley, they don't need that. They claim liberal. It doesn't matter what they claim. SSJ Trolley, that's not the point of marketing. Marketing is created to backstop and legitimize something and to make it seem more viable. It doesn't matter how viable something is. You can always market it better and make it seem even more viable. That's what marketing's about. You constantly have to move the needle. Our voting turnout sucks compared to other countries, though, doesn't it? Yes, because we don't have a day off. 70% of the populace has to work on election day. We constantly move polling locations. We constantly change polling hours. We constantly change voting restrictions. We do it all because we want to mediate voter turnout. We want to have a good voter turnout. We don't want to have a great voter turnout. Because a great voter turnout, bad things happen to plutocrats. Poor voting turnout, and the rest of the world starts to question your democracy. So we're America. We try to keep voting in like that 50-60% range. No more, no less. That's the sweet spot.